Good morning, everybody. Ben McCormick, CED Greentech. Thank you for joining us for Battery Bonus Week. I hope everyone's enjoyed the session so far. Today, we are excited to have Enphase Energy present the Enphase storage solution and its use in the Battery Bonus program. Everyone is asking about availability, and CED Greentech has product on the water, which will be ready for delivery in mid-November. So if you need Enphase battery units, please let us know and get your orders in ASAP. Tony Vernetti will be our presenter today. A couple of quick housekeeping items. We'll be logging questions for Tony and the team in the questions bar, and we'll answer those at the end of the session. We will also be having an Aloha Flex financing presentation at 12:30 following this presentation. So without further ado, we'd like to hand things over to Tony.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Ben, and thanks to all of you for taking some time out of your day to join us for this session today. We're going to talk about the Hawaiian Electric Battery Bonus Program and some of the ways that the Enphase solution is really a good fit for this program, and we hope that you're as excited about it as we are. So give me just a second to show my screen, and we'll get this, get things kicked off here. All right, so for the sake of preserving screen real estate, I'm going to stop showing my picture here. All right, so just a little bit about me and my background. I've worked for Enphase Energy for about 1.5 years now, and my official title is a sales trainer or sales and product trainer, and I work in the learning and development department of Enphase Energy. So I spend a lot of my time educating installers, oftentimes distributors, and internal salespeople as well on our products, making sure everyone is fully educated on what our products can do, and also some of our programs like the Battery Bonus Program. I've been in solar for a pretty long time, relatively speaking, about 13 years, and have worked for a couple manufacturers and 4 different contractors. So I probably have a lot of experience doing, on a day-to-day basis, doing a similar kind of work that you do. So hopefully my experience and background will be somewhat valuable today as well. And I live in Monterey County, California. So I visited Hawaii, but I haven't spent much time there. A little envious of the island lifestyle that you have out there. But again, happy to be here, and hopefully you find this really interesting and also informative. And actually, I wanted to mention the other Enphase folks that are on the line today. So we also have Maz Maganem, who's a regional sales manager, and Kartik Royapet, who's an account manager for Enphase Energy. They're both going to be available to answer questions, anything pertaining to pricing or availability. They're the experts in the room on those topics. And we're also going to have Michael Norbeck at the end of the session to answer questions. He's actually the grid services expert at Enphase Energy. He's been doing grid services related work for many years with some of the largest solar companies around. He couldn't be here at the beginning, but he's going to be here to answer questions. So just about any question you could possibly have about what we covered today, we'll have someone to answer that for you. So quick overview of the agenda today. So I'm actually going to start off by telling you a little bit about training opportunities, both in person and at Enphase University, which is our online learning platform. We're actually announcing, sorry, this slide is just a little bit outdated. We have launched a regional training center on Oahu, and we are holding actual in-person trainings. We don't have permanent staff that live in Hawaii to do these trainings, so it is on a periodic basis, but if you're interested in that, we'll get you some information. Then we're going to go over the Enphase Grid Services Advantage. So, what does Enphase bring to the table? What would be the reason why a homeowner and/or an installer want to work with Enphase with grid services programs? Then we'll really take a deep dive into the Battery Bonus Program and how the incentive structure works. We'll be very clear about customer eligibility. We have some ideas about what kind of like the sweet spot is in terms of the recommended project configuration or system configuration that has the fastest payback and the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak. And we'll go over the program participation requirements in detail, as well as the customer journey. So basically all the steps kind of in a sequence that someone would have to go through. And we'll talk about the next steps to take with us and open it up to Q&A at the end. So this slide is about Enphase University. So this was something that had been planned for a long time, but it really was ramped up at the beginning of the pandemic when it was clear that we were not going to be able to do in-person trainings for a long time. So we developed some awesome training programs in these different categories, and these are certification programs. So one of them in particular is very important for you to know about if you haven't worked with Enphase before, and that's the Enphase Storage Installation Certification. So this program is required if you want to be an Enphase storage system installation partner of ours. It's installing energy storage systems, battery systems is more complicated. There are more opportunities for errors in installations, so we require the company, or at least some top people at the company, to be installation certified to ensure that things go smoothly for you and smoothly for us, and you end up with a lot of happy customers and a lot of great referrals and return business. The other programs here we have are Enphase Storage Sales. This is, of course, focused entirely on the sales process and basically the kinds of information that a salesperson would need to know to be successful in this industry. So we talk a lot about sizing energy storage properly, how to do a good site survey to make sure you get all the information that you need in order to design and size that system correctly. We also offer Enphase Storage Design certification. So if you have an engineer, or if you are an engineer at your company or system designer and really want to learn or take a deep dive in that topic, I highly recommend that one. And if you're new to Enphase, you might just want to start with the Enphase Solar Installation certification as well. Just a little bit about the benefits of doing training in person. So obviously you can get your hands on the gear, you can see the equipment up close and personal, and talk to an installation expert from Enphase and get all your questions answered. If you have the opportunity to do an in-person training at the Regional Training Center, I highly recommend doing it. It would be a super valuable experience for you. As you'd imagine, we do cover the essentials of power and energy, so you fully understand how those two terms and electrical concepts work together when it comes to solar power and energy storage. You'll understand every component of the entire Enphase storage system package and how those components work together. And also you'll learn about consumption and production metering. This is something that's required for all Enphase storage systems to function properly. And it is something that does take a little bit of extra education to make sure it's installed correctly. If they're not installed correctly, oftentimes the systems don't work properly. And then of course, just best practices for doing your job in a very efficient manner, getting the jobs done, in a timely fashion, and having a successful commissioning experience. So the battery bonus program with Hawaiian Electric is really exciting. It can mean a lot more for your customers, which is great for you as well. We have a really interesting product configuration that is going to lead very quickly to very quick battery and solar paybacks for customers. So we're excited to share these details with you and help set you up for success in your customer journey. We should have plenty of time at the end of the session for a Q&A or to get any thoughts that you want to share on this program. So our goal today is to prepare you to hit the ground running so that you can get a bunch of Enphase batteries installed for your customers. And we want to be your partner on that journey. We bring a number of advantages to the grid services conversation you'll be having with your customers. If your customers are interested in figuring out how they can use an Enphase battery to generate additional revenue and add value to the grid as part of their community, we've got a great solution, and we're a very competitive partner in that space. First, our hardware and software are grid services ready. Our homeowner experience is best in class, and we offer a differentiated level of installer support. We like to think of this as a full suite, comprehensive solution that we bring to our installer partners to set their customers up for success when they want to start exploring grid services. So we're going to go over a few quick highlights on this slide. Our battery and communications hardware is already enabled for grid services right out of the box. Our microinverters have advanced grid functionality enabled, which is critical for Hawaii. We also support multiple battery usage modes, which means that customers can have battery backup. They can cycle their battery as needed for tariff requirements from Hawaiian Electric, and also deliver grid services value and be paid for doing that. We also have an easy and intuitive administrative console for the Grid Services Manager platform designed for utilities or other parties that need a systemic view of how to manage batteries as a portfolio. Our homeowner app experience is also very good, as you guys are probably aware of. The Enphase app for homeowners enables seamless onboarding and registration for grid services events and management of their participation. The homeowners are going to have full transparency in the app regarding their past event participation and events that are coming up as well. They can set different parameters on their battery as needed, such as setting what percentage of the battery they would like to reserve for backup. Via the app, we do offer 24/7 support and a 15-year warranty for the batteries. I'm sure you guys are also familiar with our excellent installer support resources, such as 24/7 phone support. As the installer, you'll have access to Enlighten Manager, which is our professional-grade monitoring and management system. So you'll have visibility into how a lot of detail about how the battery is performing. And you'll also be able to answer any questions you get from your customer, because you'll have, again, full visibility over their situation with their battery. And as I mentioned, we have Enphase storage training and certification courses. I think the Enphase Regional Training Center is going to be a great resource for you guys. We also have a detailed program landing page on the Enphase website with information on the battery bonus program and other grid services opportunities and FAQs, which is live now. And there's a link to the exact page later on in this presentation. Let's review the background of the battery bonus or scheduled dispatch program and the available incentives. So when we say battery bonus or scheduled dispatch, it's the same program. It has a couple different names for some reason, but to keep things clear, we're always going to refer to it as the battery bonus program. If you see the abbreviation SDP or scheduled dispatch somewhere else on Hawaiian Electric's website or even on our materials, it is the same program as the battery bonus program. So a little background. Hawaiian Electric was directed by the Public Utilities Commission to procure 50 megawatts or 100 megawatt hours of capacity from customer-connected batteries on Oahu to help maintain grid reliability, stability, and power quality as the AES coal power plant retires in September of next year. This is a big plant retirement coming up very quickly, and Hawaiian Electric's been directed to figure out how to move as efficiently as possible to source customer-cited resources to help them plug the hole that the power plant will leave as it goes offline. The battery bonus program back in August, launched back in August, and it's going to be accepting applications through June of 2023 or until that 50 megawatts is fully reached. The incentive structure is pretty simple. It's a one-time upfront cash incentive to residential or commercial customers for adding a battery to new or existing rooftop solar systems. The incentive amount is determined based on the amount of the program that's been signed up at the time of the customer's application, at the time that their application is approved by Hawaiian Electric. The idea here is to give a larger incentive to early adopters. So the first 15 megawatts of approved and enrolled capacity customers will get paid $850 per kilowatt made available to Hawaiian Electric. Then that steps down to $750 for the next 15 megawatts enrolled. And then for the final 20 megawatts, it's $500. So that comes to about $3,000 per Enphase Encharge 10 battery for the first couple of tranches. And then the last slice is about about $2,000 per battery. The Encharge 10 is our 10 kilowatt hour solution, and it has a rated power of 3.84 kilowatts. So regardless of when your customer gets into the program, it's a pretty significant incentive amount. But when talking to your customers, you want to make sure that they understand that the first people to sign up get the largest amount of money. So in a nutshell, the kilowatt value is based on the amount of power the customer agrees to discharge from their battery over a fixed 2-hour period each day. We'll have a little bit more detail on that in future slides. The incentive level is locked in, again, based on the date the customer files a completed amendment form and is issued a building permit or a verified permit submittal for the project from the city and county of Honolulu. So that's basically when the customer puts their stake in the ground saying, okay, now I'm submitting my application, and that's when Hawaiian Electric will verify the amount of the incentive that's available to that customer. So who qualifies for this program? Any customer that's on a distributed energy resources tariff such as NEM, CGS, CGS Plus, etc. They are eligible to enroll in the program provided their battery can be discharged by a paired solar system. So battery-only installations are not eligible for this program. The battery must be charged by solar. If customers have DER agreements or basically a tariff interconnection signed up with Hawaiian Electric for a battery before July 1st of this year, they are not eligible to convert that over to the battery bonus program. That said, customers may participate in the program if they add additional batteries with Hawaiian Electric's Quick Connect process, or by submitting an SDP agreement form, amendment form that is. So there's a little bit of a carve out here. There's a little bit of complexity with respect to projects that were interconnected before July 1st, 2021. Customers may not switch out their current DER program to the battery bonus program if that agreement with Hawaiian Electric was executed before July 1st of this year. If you end up with customer situations where that's the case and you want to figure out how these customers may be able to join the program, Hawaiian Electric has a good FAQ on their website. But we also are happy to help support you in understanding customer eligibility. So we want you to consider us your partners in this program. We want to make sure that any customer who is eligible and wants to enroll in this program can do it. We're going to have, we'll have contact information for the right Enphase people at the end of this presentation who can follow up with you and make sure we can, introduce ourselves and be there as a resource for you. So a recommended project configuration here is a battery retrofit to existing solar. This one is sort of a slam dunk. And that's because there's a really interesting option that Hawaiian Electric has made available to customers who add a battery under this program. So customers who install a new battery on an existing net energy metered interconnected project are eligible to install up to 5 kilowatts of additional solar under the same interconnection. This is an exceptional benefit that a lot of your customers should be interested in. As you probably know, if you want to add more solar or install a new solar system on Oahu now, NEM isn't available anymore, which means that the customer gets no compensation for any solar power that they may generate in excess of their time coincident demand. A customer like this could add a battery or two onto that system and maximize self-supply. They may generate a small amount of savings over time, but without this program, it's not really a slam dunk proposition. That said, under this program, add a battery and enroll it in the program, and not only do you get to keep your NEM interconnection, but you get to add up to 5 kilowatts additional solar, which means full retail compensation for any solar power generated in excess of time coincident customer demand. The result is a really attractive customer payback for the battery and the additional solar. There are no other opportunities available in Hawaiian Electric territory that we're aware of that make the same configuration possible. The third piece here is one we're really excited about when we have tens of thousands of existing net energy metering customers on Oahu right now. And this means a great leads channel for anybody who wants to go out and grab it. Lots of customers who have had solar for many years may very well want to add a battery or upsize their solar or both. Maybe their energy consumption has grown over time, but they haven't figured out a cost-effective way to do it yet. So this is their chance to do it right, and you can be their partner in helping them add that additional solar and battery. Our sales team can help connect you to these existing customers if you're interested as they reach out to us about this program. We want to figure out how we can work with you to engage those existing customers as cost effectively and efficiently as possible, as this is a great untapped opportunity that we uniquely bring to our installer partners. So here we have some of the finer details on program participation. As part of the application process, the customer commits to a fixed kilowatt discharge. So the power discharge they agree to enable from their battery during a set 2-hour period that Hawaiian Electric assigns between 6 o'clock and 8:30 p.m. every day. So Hawaiian Electric says this is when we are anticipating peak demand on our system. We're going to set these batteries on individual time slots during that time period based on where they're located on our grid and when they were interconnected. The customer will have to agree to discharge their battery during their assigned time every day. That window could be 6:05 to 8:05 or 6:15 to 8:15. It's going to be assigned by Hawaiian Electric. At the time of enrollment, the customer needs to commit to enabling this battery discharge profile for 2 years at a minimum. An additional piece here that's really important is that the program commitment is 10 years total. So after year 2, the customer may elect to stay with their existing 2-hour window as assigned by Hawaiian Electric at the start, or transition over to another battery discharge option, which will be determined by Hawaiian Electric based on guidance they get from the PUC. Unfortunately, that guidance doesn't exist yet. The PUC has not told Hawaiian Electric what they want phase 2 of this program to look like yet. Another requirement is that customers have to have volt, watt, and inverter functionality enabled for the project life, and this is a feature that's clearly supported by Enphase microinverters, so that's not an issue. Once the battery is installed and ready to roll, the customer has 30 days to confirm the operation of that battery by submitting data to Hawaiian Electric. They need to know that the battery is capable of delivering against that delivery requirement that they've set out for that battery. This just means 7 days of performance data to demonstrate how much of the battery is exported during that 2-hour peak period that Hawaiian Electric identifies. This is going to help Hawaiian Electric verify the incentive amount that the customer is eligible for. Now, we as Enphase can actually manage sharing that data on behalf of the customer. It's just an Excel spreadsheet that we will send to Hawaiian Electric via secure means to make sure that they've got visibility in what the battery is doing. It isn't an additional step that the customer, the installer, needs to worry about. Here's a great piece of news. Hawaiian Electric only has 30 days after that data is delivered to cut the incentive check, which is excellent. Utility incentive programs are often very slow to pay out, so 30 days is a pretty aggressive timeline and great news for customers. If the storage contracted capacity or export amount changes, it must be corrected within 30 days of notification by Hawaiian Electric, or they'll be charged $100 per month. So basically, if the customer decides to change their settings and reduce the power that they export, they may get notified by Hawaiian Electric that they aren't fulfilling their agreement and that they must fix the issue within 30 days or else pay this fee, this fine. We don't really expect this to be an issue, but if your customer does get a notice from Hawaiian Electric, we can help make sure that the discharge amount is corrected and your customer doesn't get fined or have a bad experience with the program. The customer does have an option to step out of the program if they want to. This can be done anytime with a 60-day notice to Hawaiian Electric. Of course, they'll have to repay a portion of the incentive. So repayment is going to be a prorated portion of the incentive based on basically the proportion of the program that they participated in. So if they only stayed in the program for 3 years, that's 3 out of 10 years, they're going to have to pay back approximately 70% of that rebate. So here I wanted to lay out what the customer journey and program enrollment process looks like. It's not super complicated, fortunately. The first step is verifying the customer is enrolled in an approved Hawaiian Electric tariff on Oahu. This is NEM, NEM+, CGS, CGS+, SE, or CSS. You can verify this with the customers by looking at their Hawaiian Electric bill. The customer needs to have proof of CNC planning and permitting, such as a permit application. This is something that you'll have to submit to Hawaiian Electric in collaboration with the customer. There are 2 forms the customer has to sign. One is an emergency demand response amendment, and one is a scheduled dispatch program amendment. We have links to them over on the right-hand side here. They're also on Hawaiian Electric's program landing page. So just fill those out with the customer and submit them on their behalf to Hawaiian Electric. Once those forms are submitted, we then step in to help validate customers' enrollment. So essentially, we need to have a record of which customer batteries are enrolled in the program, where those batteries are located, and which customers have signed up so we can make sure that we are enabling discharge of the right batteries at the right time. Just send us scanned copies of the 2 forms I just mentioned via the Enphase Battery Bonus Program portal, which is a very simple self-serve micro website that we have set up that will, that's there just to help us understand, again, which customer batteries we need to know about to make sure that we're managing what the discharge window is for each battery. We would submit that 7 days operational data after the installation has been validated. And again, we can do that on behalf of the customer. We'll have very granular data with respect to how the customer's battery is performing, and we can fill out the Excel worksheet and easily send it back. The final step is then a W-9 sent to Hawaiian Electric to finalize processing of the incentive amount, which either the installer or customer can send to Hawaiian Electric. So that actually sums up the meat of the presentation. We have some links here that'll help you with your next steps. So the first is a link to Enphase University, training on Enphase storage, which you can see here. It says training ensemble. It used to be called ensemble. And we also have a link to the Enphase Grid Services Professional Group. So this is if you just want to kind of stay up to date on all things grid services that Enphase is involved in, that's a great spot to get those updates. We have a link to the specific web page on our website about grid services. And we have a dedicated email address here as well. So, this is going to obviously go to folks at Enphase that are experts in grid services that should be able to answer any question that you have about that program or our functionality and participation in various grid services programs around the country or your state. Then here we have emails for the 2 Enphase representatives that help out the Hawaiian market. That's Maz Moganam and Kartik Royapet, who are both hopefully on the call today, that can answer some questions here at the end. All right, so with that, we'll jump into the Q&A.
Tony, thank you very much for that presentation. I'm wondering if you potentially have I think sometimes for this Q&A portion, if you have a separate deck that has the components of the system, or just a sample one line that you can bring up in case people have, there we go, that's
yeah, I've got, this is just kind of a simple diagram that has the key components of the Enphase storage system.
All right, well, I appreciate that. So we do have a couple of questions, so I'll take those in order. We have a question about the next in-person training session on Oahu. And that training session will be running October 26th, 27th, and 28th. There was a follow-up question about COVID requirements for that. If you're on Oahu, just need, you need to be wearing a mask. And obviously to get over to Oahu, just the standard protocols. Tony, this is one for you. From Kelsey, I think I heard the speaker say you cannot add batteries only. So can you elaborate? Are you saying with battery bonus, you can just add batteries to a NEM system? Or do you need some additional capacity to charge it?
Yeah, let me read that question. I think I heard the speaker say you cannot add batteries only. You have to add solar. I don't think that's right. So Maz or Kartik, if you've been helping customers navigate this program recently, maybe you could clarify that. My understanding is that you can add batteries. That perfect configuration that I mentioned earlier is just an added bonus where if you add a battery to an existing solar system, that means that customer can then have the right to install 5 kilowatts of additional solar and keep their net energy metering agreement. But yeah, if someone has solar and they add a battery, they don't have to add more solar. They can just get the benefit of the battery bonus rebate just for the battery.
That's correct. That's our understanding, Tony, and that's what's been communicated. As long as they are existing NEM customers, they absolutely can only add a battery. The solar addition is a great benefit to them.
Yeah. So I think perhaps what the attendee is referring to is the comment that I made where in order to be eligible for this program, the battery has to be charged by solar. There are instances where people just want to have batteries installed on their home for potentially for backup power capabilities without solar panels, those kinds of configurations would not qualify, because that's one of those basic fundamental eligibility requirements, is that the battery that you're installing has to be coupled with solar so that it is charged with solar energy and not grid power. All right, so we had some, I can see actually the questions here that came in. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, I was gonna add the follow-up question, and I'm happy to repeat the questions, Tony. So yeah, the follow-up question, but without adding PV, you can't get the ITC for just the battery. I mean, my understanding, and you can address this, Enphase team, but it would still be charged by it would still be charged by the PV, or it could still be charged by the PV, the existing PV. The disadvantage of doing that would be that you would, if you're a NEM system, you'd have to take some of that PV generation to charge the battery to discharge to Hawaiian Electric. So it wouldn't necessarily financially make the most sense to do it that way. I think that's why most folks are indeed adding PV. While it wouldn't be prohibited, most folks are going to add PV to charge the battery based on what we're seeing.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Ben. I think you summed it up well.
All right, then there's another question here. Is 5 kilowatts PV enough to charge 2 N-Charge 10s?
You know, that depends on how much power the system. I mean, that's dependent on the configuration on the roof, the climate, and a number of other factors. My first impression, my gut reaction to that question is probably not. 5 kilowatts is a bit small. I think a 5 kilowatt AC power would be a good size for charging a single lead charge 10. You know, perhaps if you've got the perfect orientation in the right, you know, on Oahu, where you've got awesome amount of sunshine, you know, you could come close to charging 2, but it's not really the best pair, I would say. And actually, Peter, manager of the training team, actually responded to that question as well. So I'll read that out loud. His response is, it'll depend on loads, and if 5 kilowatts is the only PV available, certainly this would be a little low for 2 E10s. So essentially the same answer that I gave.
I would agree. I would also add that it is AC, so you would have some. You could certainly put more DC capacity into microinverters, but yeah, it probably is a little bit low. There's a question here, Maz Kartik. If you guys want to take this, what link do you have for us to get in touch with the sales rep to get in touch with the online to start the online training?
Sure, that's a link that Tony can possibly share right now. So sure. One of the first requirement is that the installer needs an Enlighten account with Enphase and a username password set up in Enlighten, and then they may just follow the link and start the journey.
So I've pasted that into the chat, and I can also reply to the question, so it pops up in the questions interface here too.
Yeah, you're going to want to have whoever your administrator is through Enlighten Manager add you as a user, and then click that link. Do not create another account. You'll have duplicate or quadruple accounts.
Good point. Yes.
I'm wondering, Tony, if you can address when in this program, if you need to install the smart switch or not, and when how you make that decision.
That is a good question. Kartik or Maz, do you know the correct answer to that? You know, without the smart switch, I can say you don't have any capability of backup power. You know, oftentimes when people are investing in a battery, even if they're using it for a grid services program to save some money, they would like to have that battery also to be able to provide backup power functionality. So again, without the smart switch, there's no backup power functionality whatsoever. but is it required? I'm not entirely sure.
Correct. So there is no requirement per se. So, you know, as Tony stated, without the smart switch, there is no backup power. And that's what we want to make crystal clear, because, you know, when we come across, you know, upset homeowners or homeowners that may have been misinformed, that's where we want to be as crystal clear as possible. Without that smart switch, they will have no backup power. It is purely a time of use application only.
Yeah, we've updated the tech brief to show that you can install without the switch, but the entire battery would be dispatched during that time period that's selected. So the option's there, but if they're looking for backup, yeah, you need the switch.
All right, thank you. We have a follow-up question from Chris about the ITC in terms of without adding PV, you can't get ITC for just the battery, correct? So you guys, I'm always hesitant to give tax advice, so I'll see how Enphase would like to answer that.
Yeah, that is the line, right? Talk to your tax professional. I've heard different variations on this. I've heard that, you know, anytime you add a battery to an existing solar PV system, it's eligible. I've also heard that it has to be done within a certain time frame. I want to say within 2 years or 3 years of the installation of the PV system. So yeah, I'm gonna refrain from giving a definitive answer, but it's something that certainly should be looked into, because I think there's a good chance that you would be, many of your customers at least, would be eligible for the ITC for the battery, even if it's an add-on later.
All right, thank you. Another question here from Kelsey. With the 5 kilowatt PV cap, are there plans for the Encharge system to charge non-Encharge compatible PV?
So I think what you must be asking if the Encharge battery, the battery name is Encharge, if it can be charged by another brand of PV. So currently the Encharge batteries cannot be installed with any inverter system other than an Enphase inverter system. There's a possibility of compatibility with others in the future, but today it has to be an Enphase PV system to be connected to charge an Encharge battery.
Thank you. Actually, that brings up something that I think would be useful to folks on the call. Do you have a slide that shows how the battery works with older Enphase product, like non-IQ product? Or can you address that?
So yeah, I'll just bring this slide up here. The way that it functions is there are very small differences. So our system is compatible with the current generation, which is IQ7 or IQ6 microinverters. It's also compatible with an older generation, the M250 or M215. Some of the differences that I can think of if you're using the M215 or M250 is that if you are installing a system that's integrated with a generator, the solar has to be turned off if the generator is ever running, because there's a very small chance that the power could backfeed to the generator, which would be a safety hazard. Whereas the IQ microinverters can operate simultaneously with a generator. And this is actually a feature that is going to be released in a couple of weeks. It's not actually out right now, but for folks that have existing generators on their property, there's a lot of interest in this functionality. I'm trying to remember some of the other key differences.
There really isn't much when you're adding on. Sorry to jump in here, but
yeah, no, please jump in. That's fine.
When you're adding on to an M series, M215 or 250s, you need to make sure you have a new Envoy S metered added on to these parts that you're looking for here. Otherwise, the function, the app, everything should act the same as the IQ system would if you're adding a battery to an M series. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it does, Maz. In terms of just, I know there was you might need to change out the Envoy, correct? For some of the
Again,
older
the Envoy, that's right. So whether you have the Envoy R, it needs to be an Envoy S metered if you're doing storage on an M series 215 or 250 system. That's right.
Yeah, and one more thing that's important to know is that the different families of microinverters can't be mixed in the same in the microgrid. So, if somebody has M215s and they'd like to install 5 kilowatts of new solar integrated with a battery, they can't actually add the IQ7s. They would actually have to add, there are some backward compatible models that would function just like an M215 or M250 that can be installed. But yeah, just to be clear, they can't be mixed and matched and function in the same microgrid.
And that was a question here from Jeff, which can both an existing M series system and a new IQ series system charge the battery?
Yeah, so I hopefully my question or my answer that I gave before I even read that was pretty clear. So no, they can't exist in the same microgrid. They actually have a different communications protocol, the way that they communicate over the power line wires, and they're just that not compatible. It's unfortunately it's just not something we can support.
Yeah, one thing we did add to the tech brief is you can tie in the M series and IQ to a battery that does not have a switch, therefore no backup. So that option is possible, but not if you want backup. You cannot tie in M series and IQ into the same battery, unfortunately.
Thank you, Maz. As we're progressing through battery bonus, one of the things that's going to come up, Tony, is how to get the 7-day discharge data for Hawaiian Electric. Can you address how that information will be obtained?
Sure, and actually I'm gonna,
if you don't know, just so you know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, I see Michael Norbeck, who is our grid services expert at Enphase. He joined the call, and Michael, did you happen to hear that whole question?
Yeah, how are you going to get the data verifying performance back to HECO, right? Yeah. Great question. We've been getting this one a little bit. HECO just finally actually pushed, they're calling it kind of a handbook. It's just a 2-page doc to their battery bonus kind of homepage about this, specifying in a little bit more detail how they want to do it. But essentially, once we get confirmation that the system has been commissioned and been granted permission to operate, and we know what discharge window HECO has assigned for that customer's battery. Is it 605 to 805 or 610 to 810, whatever it is? We will set that profile on the battery, start discharging that battery for the 7 days or whatever it is, capture that data, and then either relay it directly back to HECO or provide it to the installer, who can then send it to HECO. But essentially, it'll just take the form of a spreadsheet that captures with timestamps, what the customer's battery has been doing during the window that HECO has requested the discharge or instructed the discharge. So it should be pretty straightforward. They don't currently have an automated system to take that data in and look at it, so it's going to be a little bit more manual. But short story is, we'll be managing the customer's discharge, capturing that data, and then relaying it back. And again, the last thing to figure out is, do we send it to you, who then sends it to HECO, or do we send it directly to HECO on the customer's behalf? And we'll kind of figure that part out as we go forward. Does that help?
That does help. I know that Hawaiian Electric reached out to us too, and everybody who's presented so far, and asked for some more information on that so that they can coordinate all the different things in that handout. So looking forward to that.
Cool.
I have a question here about tariffs, and Bryant, Hawaiian Electric, if you're on, I can take a crack at it, but maybe you can elaborate. Is the SDP program for existing CGS Plus and not just new CGS Plus customers? My understanding is to be open to any real tariff structure, but so far, from what I hear, existing NEM systems kind of make the most sense.
So did you want me to jump in on that, or do we want to hear from Brian? Whatever y'all want to do.
If Brian's available, he can, but you can also feel free. You can address that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, our understanding, and Brian, I don't mean to get in ahead of you, but jump in whenever you need to, of course. But yeah, the program is technically available to basically any customer, customers on any interconnection tariff that allows the operation of a solar and battery system. We think, and actually we're very confident, that the best value proposition is for existing NEM customers, because you get to add 5 kW of solar, and if you add a battery and enroll it in the program, and keep your existing NEM interconnect. So it's just kind of a slam dunk, really. I mean, and you guys may know this, we have over 30,000 existing NEM customers on Oahu, and a lot of them want batteries, especially if you can get $3,000 up front plus the solar, which ends up paying for the battery in, call it 5 or 6 years, depending on the customer's usage. So we see that as the strongest use case. You can do, customers on a CSS tariff, for example. The tricky part is that, you'd have to suspend the Pell limit on the battery to allow it to discharge during the 2-hour period that HECO calls for it, and then reapply the Pell limit. So from a technical perspective, it's actually a pretty heavy lift. And that's why I think we're seeing a lot of folks who don't have a retrofit product a little bit hesitant to participate in the program so far, because that's just a pain in the neck and the value prop isn't as good. So we don't currently enable that CSS application. If we see a lot of demand for it, and a lot of folks saying we need to be able to do this, we can prioritize building it, but it's a bit of a lift. Our approach has been, existing NEM customers, there's a huge pool there, folks who are very interested, and we're just recommending folks kind of reach out to them first to figure out what the solar piece is that could be useful, and then adding a battery.
I'm in agreement. So thank you very much. There's another question here that was answered by Peter, but I'm going to read it so that we can and kind of elaborate on it for the group. Can you touch base on the generator issue again? Is that a software upgrade that will be sent out? And I'd also like if Maz or Kartik can address so generator integration, then the potential for load shedding. I've heard that may be an option. Then also in terms of the extended warranty, at some point are those things, what stage are those kind of add-ons in right now?
So I'll let Tony or Maz or Kartik take that one if that's okay.
So,
sure.
Sorry, I was sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
somebody say something.
It might be better for you to answer that one.
So I'll jump in.
As far as availability.
Yeah, on the warranty, it's available today. It's on our website. I think the homeowner has 1 year after activation to sign up for additional 5-year warranty protection. So that's all on the site now. If you guys have any questions, it's pretty simple to find. The generator integration launch isn't happening. It's for a couple more weeks. My understanding for the remainder of the year, there's no cost to the software. I don't know what's going to happen next year, but we'll keep you guys updated. And then load control. What specifically about load control was the question? Ben?
Matt, just in terms of availability, how it functions and when just the available, is that something that's available now, or is that's something happening in the future?
Kartik, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding it's going to be available in distribution in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
So the function, I think Ben was referring to the function of Ensemble 1.5 load control, which is available today. And we have a load and circuit control tech brief that outlines both our PV shedding and load shedding capabilities by Ensemble. There is no charge as of yet for the load shedding feature through the end of the year as well. And today we have a bill of materials that installers can follow to actually get some of the parts and pieces to energize that Ensemble 1.5 feature. There is a plan to get a UL listed kitted load shedding product out to market by the end of Q4, which will make this process a lot easier. So I think we're all looking forward to that. But that is the plan of record today.
Hey, this is Peter. Can I add one more item to that?
Please.
So just for the folks that are interested in both load control and generator support, those actually go well hand in hand. For example, if you have a house that has just a lot of load, and it can actually be integrated such that that load can be shut off so that the microgrid will continue to run while the generator starts up. So it's all well integrated together. There is going to be a very new generator technical brief, which will be released onto Enphase.com probably on the Monday timeframe. So you might want to check on Monday, look for the generator technical brief, and that'll be available. I know there was a couple questions that came across the line, and it'll answer a lot of questions about what you are interested in terms of generator. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. This is kind of the technical question sort of been addressed, but maybe we can address it directly. If a customer has M190s, do they have to upgrade the existing system so that that NEM system can tie into the battery system?
Yes. M190s, M210s aren't compatible with the battery, so if they want Enphase storage system, then you're going to need to upgrade those micros to an IQ.
Thank you, Matt. In terms of generator integration, are there any specific brands that Enphase supports, or would it be open to any brand of generator?
Yeah, this is Peter. I can
Peter,
answer
you want
that
to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So we actually have a very specific list of generators that we've tested and qualified, and that will actually be in the tech brief. Now that doesn't mean that they're the only generators that will work. These are the generators that we've tested. We know that they're functional. They work well within the microgrid, and you'll see a few of them. They're Kohler, Generac, Briggs & Stratton, and so forth. So what we're saying is that if you have a generator that's not on the list, that doesn't mean it won't work. It's just that we're not going to be supporting it at the time. So what we're asking installers to do, that if you have a generator that is not on the list and you're interested in using it, to actually call us, give us the specs, and we will take that back to engineering and we'll qualify it. And then we'll either post it on the approved list or not. All right. So that's, but there is a list of qualified generators, and it's actually very common generators.
I appreciate that.